Last night, President Trump, he took to Twitter and he wrote, quote, "Why isn't the House Intelligence Committee looking into the Bill and Hillary deal that allowed big uranium to go to Russia, Russian speech money to Bill, the Hillary Russian reset, praise of Russia by Hillary, or Podesta, Russian and company? Trump-Russia story is a hoax. Make America great again." Now, putting aside the embarrassing Russian reset strategy, the Hillary Clinton tried and failed to enact a Secretary of State. That's irrelevant right now. Tonight, I want to focus directly on what could be the single most damning connection between the Clintons and Russia. In other words, the rarely covered scandal. Ted Koppel probably didn't cover it. Now, tonight, for weeks now, we've been telling you there is zero evidence of this 8-month-old media conspiracy narrative that President Trump and his campaign were secretly colluding with Putin and the Russians. Zero evidence. Now, tonight, I want to focus on the real scandal that is rarely covered by this alt-left propaganda destroy Trump media, and it does involve the Clintons and an enormous mining company called Uranium One. Let me give you some background. Uranium One is a Canadian-based multinational operation. Now, they extract uranium, which, of course, is a key material that's used in nuclear weapons. They do it from Asia, Africa, and Australia. Now, Uranium One is responsible for 1/5 of all uranium production right here in the United States. Here's the backstory. Back in 2013, a company directly tied to the Russian government purchased Uranium One, a move, by the way, that was approved in part by Hillary Clinton's State Department. That's a very big deal. Now, this move allowed Russia and Vladimir Putin to control 20% of all uranium production right here in the United States. And you're thinking, that sounds weird, right? If you haven't heard this before, you're probably watching the mainstream media. And it gets a lot worse. In 2015, even the New York Times, they broke a bombshell report. The headline was, quote, "Cash flowed to Clinton Foundation amid Russian uranium deal." Now, according to the Times findings, Ian Telfer, who is the chairman of Uranium One, made huge, massive donations to the Clinton Foundation. Now, the Times writes, quote, "As the Russians gradually assumed control of Uranium One in 3 separate transactions from 2009 to 2013, Canadian records show a massive flow of cash made its way to the Clinton Foundation. And while millions of dollars flowed into the Clinton Foundation from the chairman of Uranium One, the Times also reported that Bill Clinton racked up massive, huge speaking fees in Moscow. The Times writes, quote, "Shortly after the Russians announced their intention to acquire a majority stake in Uranium One, well, Mr. Clinton received $500,000 for a Moscow speech from a Russian investment bank with links to the Kremlin that was promoting Uranium One stock." Now, right here on this program, Clinton Cash best-selling author Peter Schweitzer, he provided even more damning information into the Clinton connection to Uranium One. Remember, Putin and Russia, as a result of Hillary Clinton signing off, millions of dollars going to the Clinton Foundation and Bill Clinton, they got 20% of our uranium as a result of this deal. Watch Peter. The Uranium One deal is the greatest example where Vladimir Putin now has control of 20% of our uranium resources, which is insanity. And there was how much paid in that deal when all is said and done?
Well, you have yeah, Sean, you have 9 individuals connected with this tiny uranium company that wants to be sold to the Russian government, which Hillary's State Department signs off on, in addition to other government agencies. But no other government agency had a head who had 9 individuals connected to that company that sent a combined $145 million to the Clinton Foundation. I mean, that is a massive conflict of interest.
That's unbelievable. Massive amount of money. They got a huge payback, and they now control 20% of America's uranium. Now, here's a big question. Why aren't the Democrats that have been pushing a theory that's false with no evidence for 8 months, why aren't members of the alt-radical left destroy Trump media, why aren't they worried about what is the real alleged Russian association? They're so worried about Russia meddling in the election. Isn't this far more worthy of an investigation? I wouldn't hold your breath. Now, meanwhile, liberal lawmakers, they're now trying to impugn the character of the House Intelligence Committee chair. That's Devin Newz. Now, last week, Democrats were outraged after the congressman announced that he had briefed the president on new information he had received that proved the Obama administration did, in fact, surveil President-elect Trump and his transition team. Now, on this program, Chairman Newz said it was his duty to inform the president. Yesterday, Democrats up in arms because they learned that Nunez met his source on the White House grounds. All right, sounds nefarious. Not really. Congressman Nunez said he did it in order to be near a secure location where he could properly view the material provided by his source. But that's not good enough for liberal Democratic snowflake lawmakers. Many, like House Minority Leader Pelosi, they're now calling for Nunez to recuse himself, like Senator Snowflake Schumer are calling for him to be replaced. This is nuts. Watch this.
If Speaker Ryan wants the House to have a credible investigation, he needs to replace Chairman Nunez. Chairman Nunez seems to be more of a partisan for the president than an impartial actor. He has not been cooperating like someone who was interested in getting to the unvarnished truth.
Yeah, they don't care about the truth. Neither does media. Now, Congressman Nunez, to his credit, he's not backing down. Here's what he said earlier today.
Are you going to stay as chairman and run this investigation?
Well, why would I not? You guys need to go ask them why why these things are being said.
So can this investigation continue as you as chairman?
Why would it not?
Because
aren't I briefing you guys continuously?
So
but they're
keeping you up and keeping you up to speed.
But they're saying that it cannot run as you as chair with you as chairman.
You got to go talk to them. That sounds like their problem. I don't have, my colleagues are perfectly fine. I mean, they know we're doing an investigation, and that will continue.
And earlier today, Speaker Ryan was asked if Nunez should recuse himself. He said no. Congressman Nunez better be ready because the Democrats, they'll pull out every dirty trick out of their hat to impugn his character and his integrity. The real story the media won't tell you. That's what this is about. You want corruption? Look at the Hillary Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Family Foundation. Look at the money that went in Bill's pocket. And she had to sign off 20% of America's uranium going to Putin and Russia. Oh, I thought the media was concerned about this. Here with reaction, author of the bestseller Treason, Fox News contributor, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, we got one donation, $31 million from this Canadian Frankie Estra, who went to Kazakhstan with Bill Clinton, and this was in the lead up to the deal. And then also, when you look at the money that was given over a period of time, millions were donated to the Clinton Foundation. Bill gets twice his general speaking fee, and Hillary signed off on Russia getting 20% of America's uranium, which is used to make nuclear weapons. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I think it's very strange that both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees are chaired by Republicans, and yet all the noise is about phony charges involving Donald Trump. I mean, you have real evidence, as you pointed out. Peter Schweizer's book is amazing. Since then, we've had all the WikiLeaks. We have an enormous amount of evidence. I mean, I do think it's legitimate for the American people to want to know about all this foreign money, where's it going, who's it going to, et cetera. But I think a totally one-sided witch hunt by the elite media, spurred on by liberals inside the permanent bureaucracy, and then with the shrill partisanship of Schumer and Pelosi, neither of whom, to the best of my knowledge, ever called for an investigation of Bill Clinton's money, an investigation of Uranium One, an investigation of all the different dealings. I think the country deserves a really thorough exploration of the issue of foreign money gradually corrupting our system, but that ought to be an even-handed, serious look, and it has to include, as part of it, really delving into the Clintons and their network of millions and millions of dollars. And I'm frankly mystified why the Republican leadership in both the House and the Senate have been so timid and so unwilling to just open up a straight-out investigation.
It seems to me that's a quid pro quo. A Secretary of State signs off on letting Russia have ownership of 20% of our uranium? That is insanity to me. And if Donald Trump did it, I guarantee you that what is now an 8-month no evidence conspiracy, it would be Watergate time on steroids. Let me ask you this. We now learn from James Rosen and John Solomon and Sarah Carter, all investigative journalists for decades of experience, that in fact there was surveillance at Trump Tower. And it went on in November, December, and January, and it may have even happened before the election. Time will tell. Shouldn't that concern every American that there's surveillance and that probably the sitting president at the time, President Obama, and his closest aides knew exactly what was going on in Trump Tower and they didn't tell him?
Well, look, I think this whole process should concern everybody. The use of the intelligence systems, the level of hostility to Trump, the number of leaks which are felonies, clearly illegal, the whole process by which the President Obama apparently, I mean, we ought to look at the decision memos. Who decided that they would, because remember, these are not hard, serious facts. They changed the rules so you could pick up the dumbest, weirdest gossip, and now you're going to distribute it to all the different agencies, knowing that making it that available almost guarantees it will leak.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something, this was all done in early January after they lost the election. And there's a whole series of these kind of things where you have to believe that the deep state and the Obama team were in collusion, doing things designed to undermine and weaken the person who the American people had elected to be president. But I think it's very troubling, and I think it deserves very serious investigation.
Let me ask you an important question, though, about health care. I think this was mishandled from the start. In other words, nobody in the Congress got to see the bill that was being scored by the CBO. Consensus was not built ahead of time. Rumors came out before the bill was released. People were vocal about expressing, I hope that's not in there, I hope that's not in there. Then a public civil war emerges on TV because there's such disagreement. All right, what's the right thing for them to do now? Because this was a major promise. They had 8 years to do this. To me, I think it was rolled out in the worst way imaginable. I'm holding them accountable, like I promised. How can they fix this?
Well, first of all, I just put on FoxNews.com a fairly long outline of exactly what went wrong and exactly what we should now do, drawing on the lessons of Eisenhower, Reagan, Thatcher, and what we did with the contract with America. I think that first of all, I think they should pick up immediately and work on infrastructure, because it'll bring Democrats in to talk in a serious, practical way about working together. That opens the door to have Democrats talking about the tax bill. That sets the stage for a totally new approach to health care. Don't try to use Senate reconciliation. Don't try to get it through in a narrowly partisan way.
How do they get away with not using reconciliation? They're not going to get any Democrats to vote for it.
Look, if you and I are right, and then the president's right, and Paul Ryan's right about how bad Obamacare is for rural America, then we should be able to do a better deal for North Dakota that is so vivid and so clear that Senator Heidecamp, who's up for re-election next year, has no choice. She either votes for it or she gets beaten next year. Now, I'm happy to wait, if I have to, until right after we wipe out an entire wing of the Democratic Party to pass it in January or February of 2019.
And that means Claire McCaskill and Joe Manchin?
Write a bad bill. In other words, I'd put the bill up now. I'd fight over the bill every day from now to election. But if we can do better for rural America, the senator from Missouri has a real problem. The senator from Montana has a real problem. You can go down the list. There are 8 or 10 Democrats who are going to get wiped out if they are seen as anti-health care. But that means House and Senate Republicans have got to focus on communication. This was as badly designed a process as I have seen.
I think the president was ill-served here.
I believe, having run a number of elections, that we are lucky that they did not vote last Friday, because that bill was at 17%, and they might well have lost the majority next year if they put their people out to walk the plank.
All right, Mr. Speaker, always good to see you. We'll see you later this week as well. Thank you.